The barn owl is a magnificent creature with its 40-inch wingspan, heart-shaped face, and elegant appearance. This bird resides mainly in rough grasslands surrounded by trees. The barn owl species provides a pleasant aspect of biodiversity that should be cherished forever. However, the barn owl is under the threat of extinction. Numbers seen of this bird have declined to just 5 million worldwide today. The main cause for this poor bird's endangerment is due to the overpopulation of humans. Road casualty, usually while hunting, and destruction of habitat are the two most common causes of the death of barn owls. Due to the growing population of humans, logging trees has become a necessity. The Malthusian theory states that with overpopulation comes the destruction of the environment. Unfortunately, the barn owl and its habitat has to suffer the consequences. The conversion of fields to urban land affects the barn owl's natural habitat and prey. Losing the fields and old barns creates a problem for where the owls can live. It also affects the owl's diet, which consists of field mice, rats, and gray squirrels. The Malthusian theory is less applicable today because there are more people who are conscious about the environment. In the past 2 centuries, where the barn owl population saw the greatest decline, there was no effort to preserve the environment. However, in the last couple of decades, the population of the barn owls and other predators has increased due to the ban of DDT pesticides. This awareness is more evidence that the Malthusian theory is less applicable today. Here is an example of the Malthusian theory. The balloon represents the Earth's resources, while the water represents the human population. The greater the human population gets, the more strained the Earth's resources become. Eventually, humans will take over and eliminate the resources, causing the extinction of countless species. This theory is valid in that humans have a history of growing exponentially and destroying the environment as they do so. However, this is nullified by the fact that technology and environmental awareness is increasing exponentially as well. There are also theories that predict war and famine before an ultimate globe of flesh sets in. This weakens the Malthusian theory even further. Harsh winters contribute significantly to the death of juvenile barn owls. Unfortunately, there isn't much humans can do to prevent this. However, the Barn Owl Trust has set up a project to begin building nest boxes that would protect the barn owls from the cold. Although nest boxes may guard against the cold, food availability is still a problem because most of the owl's food sources have either died or are hibernating. The lack of food during the winter becomes a significant factor for the barn owls. They have to endure this in order to survive, although many don't. Before man-made structures such as the barn, as the barn owl's name implies, barn owls would reside in hollow trees. Wooden barns have many cracks and holes in them for barn owls to enter. However, as you can see, steel barns leave few to no holes for the barn owl to roost. For centuries, barn owls have been roosting in wooden barns such as this one. However, technology has been leading to steel barns replacing wooden barns, leaving many barn owls homeless. In order to give back to this beautiful species, our group decided that it would be necessary to rebuild and maintain wooden barns, as well as put up owl crossing signs and hedges in order to prevent roadside casualties. Placing owl crossing signs in areas such as this one will raise awareness to drivers. Drivers will know that this is a hunting ground for barn owls and will be cautious for low-flying birds coming across the road. Placing hedges alongside roads will prevent the collision of owls and cars. Hedges will force the owl to fly higher, thus flying over the cars. This video from the Barn Owl Trust elaborates on their current efforts to preserve the barn owl and its natural habitat.
I got interested in owls during the early 1980s and I started doing things to encourage them. We were putting up nest boxes, advising farmers on creating the right habitat, and it just grew and grew and grew. So in 1988, the Barn Owl Trust was founded. Barn owls and so many other farmland wildlife has become really rare, particularly during the 60s, 70s and 80s because of changing farming practices. Intensive farming basically means there's less food for owls, less habitat for wildlife. The aim of the Barn Owl Trust is to conserve wild barn owls. That's what we're all about. But our slogan is conserving the barn owl and its environment. So we're also an environmental organisation. Occasionally people will come across an injured wild barn owl and we're often the kind of first port of call. We have a little sanctuary where we look after owls that can't be released. Broken wings are the most common problem. Hopefully the wing can be reset, and if it's flying well then we can arrange its release, and that's the best bit. We usually try and take the birds back to where they've come from. We have a mobile aviary and we've had some great successes with that. We've got birds breeding in the wild right now which have gone through that process. Part of our population monitoring is to actually put little rings on individual barn owls to find out what's happened to them. And we also know how long barn owls live and we know how far they disperse. So ringing is a vitally important tool. The loss of old farm buildings and the loss of really big hollow trees has meant that there's less places for barn owls to roost during the day and also to nest. And so the main thing that we've done to combat that is to put nesting boxes up in modern farm buildings.
We've also got a pair of barn.
Since 1989 we've been visiting schools and we talk to children about barn owls, but the way we do it is actually telling a story which we wrote called The Wings of Change. We also train ecological consultants. If you want to convert a barn, the local authority will say you need to have a survey carried out to see if there are any barn owls here. If it's a site where there are barn owls, they'll know what needs to be recommended to make sure the barn owls are protected. This is the Lennon Legacy Project. A lady called Vivian Lennon left a legacy to the Barn Owl Trust, and basically we've created 26 acres of barn owl heaven. This was short grass with sheep. You know, it's the kind of intensive grazing situation which is really bad for barn owls, and we now have 2 pairs of wild barn owls breeding here, and we're absolutely over the moon. The Barn Owl Trust couldn't have achieved everything it's done without supporters. So friends of the Barn Owl Trust, the people who've adopted our owls, especially the people who've remembered the Barn Owl Trust in their will, without that support we couldn't have done all that educational work, we couldn't have done all the research work, and so that support is obviously essential. We need to care, not only for wildlife, but for our own survival, and the two are inextricably linked.
Barn owls are an endangered species and are protected by Indiana law. However, organizations such as the Barn Owl Trust need your help to fund projects to save this beautiful species. Please help fund our local endeavors to save this elegant bird. We have been making an attempt to re-establish and maintain wooden barns and put up barn owl crossing signs as well as hedges. However, these efforts would be in vain without your help. Your donation of just 50 cents a week can help save the lives of countless barn owls.
Heart beats fast, colors and promises. How to be brave? How can I love when I'm afraid to
Wooden barns leave many cracks and openings for the barn owl to enter. What the heck? Wooden barns have many cracks and openings for the barn owl to enter to roost. However, as you can see, steel barns leave very few openings for the barn owl to enter. Dang it!
For the barn owl.
Don't have a worry in the world. I'm chilling like the villain. Yeah, I just keep on kicking lyrics from the one and two.
What do you think of that?
Something like this.
Where would you plug it in?
I'd like to Google YouTube.